Sarah Chen woke up on a bench in Jefferson Park at 5:47 a.m. because the sprinklers turned on. Cold water hit her face. She grabbed her backpack, everything she owned was in that backpack, and stumbled away, disoriented and shivering. She was 35 years old. She had a master's degree in business. 5 years ago, she had owned a successful boutique with 3 employees and annual revenue of $400,000. Now, she was homeless. She walked to the public restroom near the playground. Locked her backpack in a stall. Washed her face in the sink. Looked at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back was unrecognizable. Hair matted. Dark circles under eyes that used to be bright. Clothes that hadn't been properly washed in weeks. "How did I get here?" she whispered to her reflection. But she knew how. She knew exactly how. Depression had taken everything. Slowly. Methodically. Like a thief in the night. It started with missing a few days of work. Then a few weeks. Then closing the store because she couldn't get out of bed. Then losing the lease. Then losing her apartment. Then losing her friends who got tired of trying to help someone who wouldn't help herself. Then the streets. Sarah had been homeless for 4 months. 4 months of sleeping in parks, libraries, 24-hour coffee shops when she could afford a cup. 4 months of invisible existence. People looked through her now, not at her. She had become a ghost. That morning, wet from the sprinklers, hungry because she hadn't eaten in 2 days, Sarah sat on a different bench and thought, "I can't do this anymore." Not, "I can't do this anymore," meaning she wanted to end it. But, "I can't do this anymore," meaning something had to change. She couldn't survive another 4 months like this. She didn't know it yet, but that morning, wet, cold, hungry, and desperate, was the morning everything would begin to shift. Sometimes you have to lose everything to find out who you really are. And Sarah was about to discover she was so much more than her circumstances. 7 years earlier, Sarah had been living her dream. She was 28, engaged to her college sweetheart Michael, and had just opened Chen Boutique, a carefully curated clothing store in the trendy downtown district. Sarah had always had an eye for fashion. Not trendy fashion, but timeless pieces. Quality over quantity. She traveled to small manufacturers, found unique items, built relationships with artisans. Her boutique became known as the place where women found clothes that made them feel beautiful and confident. Not because the clothes were expensive, but because Sarah understood her customers. She remembered the grand opening. Champagne. Friends. Family. Her mother crying with pride. Michael squeezing her hand and whispering, "You did it, babe. You really did it." The first year was hard. Learning inventory management, dealing with difficult customers, managing cash flow. But Sarah loved every minute of it. She was building something that mattered. By year 2, she had hired her first employee. By year 3, she had 3 employees and was looking at opening a second location. Revenue grew steadily, $180,000 the first year, $320,000 the second year, $400,000 the third year. Sarah was featured in a local business magazine, 30 Under 30, Young Entrepreneurs Changing the Game. She and Michael got married in a small ceremony in Napa Valley. They bought a condo. Talked about having kids. Life was unfolding exactly as planned. Sarah would wake up every morning excited. Grateful. Energized. She remembered standing in her boutique one quiet afternoon, sunlight streaming through the windows, and thinking, "I am so lucky. I have everything I ever wanted." She had no idea that within 2 years, she would lose all of it. She had no idea that the darkness was coming. The depression started so quietly that Sarah didn't even notice at first. She just felt tired. more tired than usual. She would come home from the boutique and immediately get into bed. "I'm just working too hard," she told Michael. "I need to slow down." But slowing down didn't help. The tiredness got worse. It became a heaviness. Like her whole body was made of lead. Then came the fog in her mind. Simple decisions became impossible. What inventory should she order? She couldn't decide. What should she eat for lunch? She couldn't decide. She started canceling plans with friends. "I'm just not feeling well," she would text. Again and again. Michael noticed. "Sarah, are you okay? You seem different." "I'm fine," she lied. "Just stressed." But she wasn't fine. She was drowning. And she didn't know how to ask for help. The worst part was the guilt. She had a successful business. A loving husband. A beautiful life. What right did she have to be sad? So she didn't tell anyone how she really felt. The emptiness. The numbness. The feeling that nothing mattered. She started missing days at the boutique. Her employees covered for her at first. "Sarah's not feeling well." Then it became awkward. "Is she coming in today?" "I don't know." Revenue dropped. Customers noticed the owner was never there. The personal touch that made the boutique special disappeared. Michael tried to be supportive, but he didn't understand. "Just snap out of it," he said one evening, frustrated. "You have so much to be grateful for." Sarah knew he was right. But knowing didn't change anything. The depression didn't care about gratitude lists or positive thinking. It just consumed everything. One morning, 6 months into the depression, Sarah couldn't get out of bed. Didn't want to. Couldn't. Her body refused to move. Michael found her there at noon, staring at the ceiling. "Sarah, you need help. This isn't normal." She finally agreed to see a therapist. Then a psychiatrist. They diagnosed her with severe clinical depression. Prescribed medication. But the medication made her feel worse. Numb in a different way. Disconnected from herself. She stopped taking it. Stopped going to therapy. Stopped trying. And the darkness just won. Michael tried everything to help Sarah. He made appointments with different therapists. Researched treatment options. Bought books about depression. Tried to get her to exercise, eat better, go outside. "Just try, Sarah. Please. Just try." But Sarah had no energy to try. She had no energy for anything. Her boutique closed 6 months after her depression started. She just stopped going. Stopped paying rent. The landlord evicted the business. Her employees found other jobs. Everything she had built for 5 years disappeared in 6 months. Michael thought losing the business would be a wake-up call. "Now you can focus on getting better," he said. But Sarah felt nothing. Not grief. Not relief. Nothing. She spent entire days in bed. Sometimes she would get up to use the bathroom and realize 3 days had passed. Time became meaningless. Michael's patience wore thin. He loved her, but he was exhausted. He had been carrying both of them for months. One evening, he sat on the edge of their bed and said the words that would shatter what was left of Sarah's world. "I can't do this anymore. I love you, but I can't watch you destroy yourself. I need to take care of myself now." He moved out 2 weeks later. Sarah should have felt devastated. But she felt nothing. The numbness was complete. Without Michael's income, she couldn't afford the condo. She moved into a small studio apartment. Then she couldn't afford that either. Her parents offered to help, but Sarah's pride wouldn't let her accept. "I'm fine," she lied. "I just need some time." Her mother called every day. Sarah stopped answering. Her friends organized interventions. Sarah stopped responding to texts. She applied for jobs but couldn't make it through interviews. The fog in her mind made conversation impossible. She applied for disability benefits. Denied. Depression doesn't qualify. She went to a free clinic. They prescribed different medication. It didn't work either. She tried support groups. Sat in circles of strangers sharing their pain. She couldn't speak. The words wouldn't come. Every attempt to fix herself failed. Every door she tried was locked. And slowly, inevitably, she ran out of money. Out of options. Out of time. The eviction notice came on a Tuesday. She had 30 days. She had $127 in her bank account. No job. No prospects. No one left to call. 30 days later, she packed everything she could carry into a backpack. And she became homeless. The first night on the street, Sarah sat on a bench in Jefferson Park and cried. Not the quiet, dignified crying she had done when Michael left. This was different. This was the crying of someone who had completely given up. She had thought she understood rock bottom before. Losing the business. Losing Michael. Losing her home. But this was different. This was the actual bottom. She was invisible now. People walked past without seeing her. Mothers pulled their children away. Security guards watched her suspiciously. Sarah learned quickly where she could sleep without being moved along. Which parks had restrooms that stayed open. Which coffee shops would let her sit for hours if she bought one small coffee. She learned which shelters had beds available and which were too dangerous for a woman alone. She learned to eat from dollar menus. To ration the little money she had. To ignore the constant hunger. But the hardest part wasn't the physical discomfort. It was the shame. The voice in her head that said, "You have a master's degree. You owned a business. And now you're homeless. You're pathetic. You're a failure. You deserve this." 4 months into homelessness, Sarah had accepted this as her life now. She would probably die on these streets. Maybe that was what she deserved. One night, she was sleeping in a doorway downtown when someone kicked her awake. "Move," a man's voice said. "This is my spot." Sarah gathered her backpack and moved. No fight left in her. She walked for hours that night. Too afraid to sleep. Too tired to think. As the sun rose, she found herself outside the public library. It opened at 9 a.m. She sat on the steps and waited. When the doors opened, she went inside. Not because she wanted to read. Just because it was warm. Because she could sit without being harassed. She found a corner table near the back. Put her head down. Closed her eyes. A librarian approached. Sarah tensed, waiting to be told to leave. But the woman just said softly, "Are you okay? Can I get you some water?" Sarah looked up. Met the librarian's kind eyes. And for the first time in months, she felt something other than numbness. She felt the faintest flicker of something. Not hope. Not yet. But acknowledgement. Someone saw her. Someone cared enough to ask. "Yes," Sarah whispered. "Water would be nice." The librarian brought her water. And a granola bar. And a tissue. "The library is a safe space," she said gently. "You can stay as long as you need." Sarah cried. The librarian didn't judge. just patted her shoulder and walked away. That day, Sarah didn't know it yet, but that library would change her life. That small act of kindness from a stranger would be the crack that let light in. Sarah started going to the library every day. It became her refuge. Climate-controlled. Safe. Quiet. No one bothered her. She would sit at the same corner table for hours. Sometimes she slept. Sometimes she just stared at nothing. One afternoon, about a week after the librarian had shown her kindness, Sarah noticed the computers. Free internet access. She hadn't been online in months. Hadn't checked email. Hadn't looked at social media. She had disconnected from the world completely. She sat down at a computer, not sure what she was looking for. She typed her own name into Google, curious about her old life. The search results showed her boutique. Articles from when it was successful. Her 30 under 30 feature. Her wedding announcement with Michael. Sarah stared at the smiling woman in those photos. That wasn't her anymore. That woman was dead. She closed the browser. Started to get up. Then hesitated. What if she searched for something else? Not her past. But something about her present. She typed, "How to survive severe depression." Articles appeared. Clinical. Sterile. Things she had read 1,000 times. She tried again, rock bottom depression, what to do. More articles. Self-help advice that required energy she didn't have. She was about to give up when she saw a video title, "I was homeless and suicidal, then this saved my life." Something about it pulled her in. The raw honesty of the title. The specificity. She clicked. A man, maybe 40 years old, sitting in what looked like a nice apartment. He talked about being homeless for 2 years. About addiction and mental illness and losing everything. Sarah's attention sharpened. This person understood. Then the man said something that made Sarah pause the video. "I didn't get better because of willpower. I didn't get better because I worked harder or tried harder. I got better because I changed my frequency." Frequency? Sarah pressed play again. The man explained the law of attraction. About energy. About how your internal state creates your external reality. About how he had been vibrating at the frequency of despair and homelessness, which kept him trapped in that reality. "The moment I started changing my internal frequency," he said, "my external world began to shift. Not immediately. But gradually. Opportunities appeared. Help came from unexpected places. Doors opened." Sarah watched the entire video. Then watched it again. Her logical mind said, "This is nonsense. Positive thinking won't get you off the streets." But another part of her, a tiny, quiet part that hadn't spoken in months, whispered, "What if it's not nonsense? What if there's something here?" She searched, "Law of Attraction Depression." Videos appeared. Hundreds of them. Stories of people who had transformed their lives. Sarah spent the rest of that day watching videos. Taking notes on a scrap of paper she found in her backpack. When the library closed at 8 p.m., she didn't want to leave. That night, sleeping on her bench in Jefferson Park, Sarah thought about what she had learned. Could she really change her reality by changing her thoughts? It seemed impossible. But then again, what did she have to lose? She was already at zero. She couldn't go any lower. Maybe, it was worth trying. The next morning, Sarah went back to the library as soon as it opened. She spent hours researching the law of attraction. Reading articles. Watching more videos. Taking notes. The core concept was simple: your thoughts create your reality. Your energy attracts matching energy. What you focus on expands. Sarah's skeptical mind fought against every word. If this were true, she thought, everyone would be rich and happy. This is just feel-good nonsense for people who want to avoid taking real action. But she kept reading anyway. One article explained it differently: the law of attraction isn't magic. It's psychology. When you focus on something, your brain's reticular activating system highlights opportunities related to that thing. When you believe you're worthy of good things, you act differently, make different choices, notice different possibilities. That made more sense to Sarah. It wasn't about wishing money into existence. It was about rewiring your brain to see opportunities instead of obstacles. Another video talked about gratitude. About how grateful people literally have different brain chemistry than ungrateful people. Gratitude shifts you from lack consciousness to abundance consciousness, the speaker said. When you're grateful for what you have, even if it's very little, you open yourself to receiving more. Sarah looked around the library. What could she possibly be grateful for? She was homeless, depressed, alone, broke. But then, she was sitting in a warm, safe building. She had access to internet and knowledge. A kind librarian had given her water and food. She had a backpack that hadn't been stolen. She had her health, relatively speaking. Small things. Tiny things. But things nonetheless. Sarah pulled out her scrap of paper and wrote at the top, "Things I'm grateful for." This library exists. The librarian was kind to May. Found these videos. I'm alive. I can still think clearly sometimes. She stared at the list. 5 things. Not impressive. But it was something. One video suggested a 30-day challenge: practice gratitude and visualization every single day for 30 days. Your life will change, the speaker promised. Not might change. Will change. Sarah wanted to believe it. But she had been disappointed so many times. By therapy. By medication. By friends who promised to help and then disappeared. What if this was just another false hope? But then again, what if it wasn't? That evening, before the library closed, Sarah watched one more video. A woman who had been in an abusive relationship, homeless, addicted to drugs. She had used the law of attraction to completely transform her life. The woman said something that hit Sarah like a physical force. You don't have to believe it will work. You just have to be willing to try. For 30 days. That's it. If nothing changes, you can go back to hopelessness. But what if something does change? Sarah sat with that question. What if something did change? She made a decision. She would try. For 30 days. She would practice gratitude. She would visualize a better life. She would act as if this manifestation thing was real. And if nothing happened, she would be exactly where she was now. No worse off. But if something did happen, that tiny spark of possibility felt terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. Sarah created a routine. Every morning when the library opened, she would go to her corner table and spend 30 minutes practicing. First, gratitude. She would write 5 things she was grateful for on her scrap of paper. The first few days, it was hard. I'm grateful the weather isn't freezing. I'm grateful no one stole my backpack last night. I'm grateful for this pen I found. It felt forced. Ridiculous even. She was homeless, writing gratitude lists. But she kept going. Second, visualization. She would close her eyes and imagine a better life. She didn't visualize being a millionaire. That felt too far away, too impossible. She visualized something simpler, having a room. With a bed. And a door that locked. Somewhere safe and warm. She visualized waking up in that room. The feeling of clean sheets. The sound of her own heartbeat instead of sirens and shouting. The peace. Some days, the visualization came easily. She could feel it so clearly it almost hurt. Other days, her mind wouldn't cooperate. The depression fog was too thick. She would sit there with her eyes closed, feeling nothing, seeing nothing. But she showed up every day. That was the commitment. Third, affirmations. This was the hardest part. She was supposed to say things like, I am abundant. I am worthy. I am successful. But when she tried to say those words, her entire being rebelled. They felt like lies. So she modified them. Instead of, I am abundant, she said, I am open to abundance. Instead of, I am successful, she said, I am capable of success. Small shifts. But they felt more honest. The first week was excruciating. Nothing changed. She was still homeless. Still depressed. Still invisible. Her skeptical mind screamed, see? This doesn't work. You're wasting your time. But she had committed to 30 days. She would finish. On day 8, something small happened. Sarah was in her usual spot in the library when a woman sat down at the table next to her. The woman was older, maybe 60, with kind eyes. After a few minutes, the woman leaned over and said quietly, I've seen you here every day. You're very dedicated. Sarah didn't know what to say. No one had spoken to her in weeks except to tell her to move along. I'm trying to improve my situation, Sarah said carefully. The woman smiled. Good for you. The library is a wonderful place for transformation. I'm a retired teacher. I come here to volunteer sometimes. If you ever need help with anything, job applications, resume writing, whatever, I'm happy to help. She handed Sarah a small card with her name and email, Margaret Winters. Sarah took the card with shaking hands. Thank you. Margaret nodded and went back to her work. That night, Sarah looked at the card. She added to her gratitude list, I'm grateful Margaret offered to help me. It was a tiny thing. Probably meaningless. But maybe, just maybe, it was a sign that her energy was shifting. On day 12, Sarah woke up and realized something was different. The crushing heaviness in her chest was lighter. Just slightly. But noticeable. She had been depressed for so long that she had forgotten what feeling neutral felt like. Not happy. Not hopeful. Just, not drowning. She went to the library and did her morning practice, gratitude, visualization, affirmations. When she finished, she found Margaret. You said you could help with resumes? Sarah asked, her voice small. Margaret's face lit up. Absolutely. Do you have one? Sarah shook her head. I haven't worked in over a year. And before that, I owned a business. But it failed. I don't know how to explain that. Let's work on it together, Margaret said kindly. They spent 3 hours crafting Sarah's resume. Margaret didn't ask intrusive questions about why Sarah was always at the library. She just helped. By the end of the session, Sarah had a professional resume highlighting her business experience, her degree, her skills. Now, Margaret said, let's talk about what kind of work you're looking for. Sarah hesitated. Honestly? Anything. I just need something. Start with retail, Margaret suggested. Your boutique experience is perfect for that. You understand customer service, inventory, sales. Together, they applied to 15 retail positions online using the library computers. Sarah didn't expect anything. She had applied to jobs before. No one ever responded to a homeless person. But this time felt different somehow. Maybe because she had help. Maybe because her energy was shifting. 3 days later, Sarah checked the email account Margaret had helped her set up. 2 responses. 2 interview requests. Sarah stared at the screen in disbelief. She read the emails 3 times to make sure they were real. One was for a sales position at a department store. The other was for a stock clerk at a bookstore. Her hands were shaking as she responded to both, accepting the interviews. That night, she added to her gratitude list, "I'm grateful for interview opportunities. I'm grateful Margaret helped me." The interviews were scheduled for the following week. Sarah had one major problem: she had nothing to wear. The next morning, she mentioned this to Margaret. "Come with me," Margaret said. She took Sarah to a small nonprofit organization a few blocks away. "They help people get back on their feet," Margaret explained. "Professional clothes, interview coaching, all free." An hour later, Sarah walked out with an interview outfit: black pants, white blouse, simple blazer. All clean, professional, donated. She also had interview tips from a volunteer counselor and a voicemail number she could use for job callbacks. Sarah stood on the sidewalk holding the bag of clothes and felt something she hadn't felt in over a year. Hope. Not certainty. Not confidence. Just a tiny, fragile spark of hope. Maybe this manifestation thing was actually working. Sarah got both jobs. Not one. Both. The department store offered her 30 hours a week at $15 per hour. The bookstore offered her 15 hours a week at $14 per hour. If she took both, that was 45 hours a week and approximately $670 per week before taxes. About $2,400 a month after taxes. It wasn't much. But it was infinitely more than zero. She would start both jobs the following Monday. That gave her 1 week to figure out logistics. She couldn't work while homeless. She needed a place to shower, to keep her work clothes clean, to sleep properly so she could show up on time. Margaret helped her research options. Transitional housing. Shelters with work programs. Subsidized rooms. They found a rooming house 20 minutes from downtown. $600 per month for a tiny room with a shared bathroom. No kitchen, but there was a microwave. It wasn't pretty. But it was a roof. A door that locked. A bed. Sarah scraped together the deposit using the last of her money and a small loan from Margaret, who insisted it was a gift, but Sarah promised to pay her back. She moved in 3 days before starting her jobs. The room was bare. Just a bed, a small dresser, one window. Peeling paint. Stained carpet. To Sarah, it looked like a palace. She sat on the bed and cried. Relief. Gratitude. Disbelief. 2 weeks ago, she had been sleeping on benches. Now she had a room. That night, she restarted her manifestation practice with renewed commitment. She had been practicing for 18 days so far. She had seen results: Margaret appearing, job opportunities, this room. What if she kept going? What if she expanded her vision? She closed her eyes and visualized not just survival, but thriving. She saw herself healthy, happy, purposeful. She saw herself helping others the way Margaret had helped her. She didn't visualize being a millionaire yet. That still felt impossible. But she visualized financial stability. A nice apartment. Enough money that she never had to be afraid again. She visualized sharing her story. Teaching others what she was learning. The visualization felt powerful. Clear. Real. Sarah opened her eyes and wrote in her journal. She had bought a cheap notebook with her first paycheck advance. Day 18. I have a room. I have 2 jobs. I start Monday. None of this existed 3 weeks ago. The law of attraction is real. I'm going to keep practicing. I'm going to see how far this can go. I'm going to trust the process. She also made a new commitment, 33 days. She had read that 33 days was the optimal time to rewire neural pathways. She was on day 18. 15 more days of consistent practice. And then she would see where she was. But already, she knew, she was different. The fog in her mind was lifting. The heaviness in her chest was lighter. The hopelessness was being replaced by something she hadn't felt in so long. Possibility. Sarah's first week working both jobs was brutal. She would wake up at 5 a.m. Shower in the shared bathroom. Get dressed in her work clothes. Take 2 buses to the department store. Work 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. Take a bus to the bookstore. Work 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. Take 2 buses home. Get back to her room at 9:30 p.m. Collapse. Repeat. Her body hurt. Her feet ached. She was exhausted. But it was a different kind of tired than the depression tired. This was physical exhaustion from work. From purpose. From moving forward. And she was grateful for it. Every morning, before her shift, she practiced her manifestation routine. Sometimes just for 10 minutes because that was all she had. Gratitude, I'm grateful for these jobs. I'm grateful for this room. I'm grateful for the money coming in. Visualization, she was expanding her vision now. She visualized paying off the loan to Margaret. Saving enough to move to a better apartment. Maybe even starting a small business again someday. Affirmations, I am capable. I am worthy. I am creating a better life. The words felt more true now. Less like lies. Her first paycheck came on Friday of that first week. After taxes and the direct deposit delay, she had $412. Sarah stared at the number in her account. $412. The most money she had had in months. She immediately paid her rent for the next month. That left her with negative $188 in her account, but at least she had housing secured. The second paycheck would cover food and bus fare. The third paycheck would start to build savings. It was a plan. A real plan. One of her co-workers at the department store, a woman named Linda, noticed Sarah's work ethic. You're really good with customers, Linda said during a break. You should apply for the supervisor position. It just opened up. Supervisor meant $18 per hour instead of $15. It meant more responsibility, but also more money and potential for growth. I've only been here a week, Sarah protested. So, apply anyway. What's the worst that could happen? Sarah thought about it. The old Sarah would have said, I'm not qualified. I'm not ready. They'll never pick me. The new Sarah, practicing manifestation, thought, what if they do pick me? What if I am ready? She applied. 3 days later, she got the interview. 5 days after that, she got the promotion. $18 per hour at the department store. She could drop the bookstore job and still make almost the same amount with fewer hours. More time to rest. To practice manifestation. To think about what came next. On day 25 of her practice, Sarah wrote in her journal. 3 weeks ago, I was homeless. Today, I'm a supervisor making $18 per hour with my own room. This is real. This is working. I'm scared to believe it's sustainable, but it's happening. 8 days until her 33-day commitment was complete. Sarah wondered what would happen when she reached day 33. She had no idea that day 33 would be the day everything exploded. On day 28, Sarah's old demons came back. She woke up with the familiar heaviness in her chest. The depression fog rolling in. "No," she whispered. "No, please. Not now." She had been doing so well. The momentum had been building. And now this. She tried her morning practice, but the words felt empty. Gratitude felt impossible. Visualization felt pointless. The voice in her head was vicious. "You really thought you could escape depression with positive thinking? You're still broken. You'll always be broken. This was temporary. You're about to lose everything again." Sarah called in sick to work. Spent the day in bed. Spiraling. All the progress she had made felt fragile. Like it could disappear any second. By evening, she was in full panic. What if she couldn't get out of bed tomorrow? What if she lost her job? What if she ended up homeless again? She reached for her phone. Almost called the crisis hotline. Then stopped. Instead, she opened her journal and read her entries from the past 28 days. Day 1, I have nothing to lose. I'll try this. Day 5, Margaret offered to help. Day 12, I got 2 interview requests. Day 18, I have a room. I have jobs. Day 25, I'm a supervisor. The evidence was undeniable. Things had changed. Dramatically. In less than a month. One bad day didn't erase that. Sarah took a deep breath and forced herself to write. Day 28. The depression came back today. I'm scared. But I'm not where I was 28 days ago. Even on my worst day now, I have a roof over my head. I have a job. I have food. The depression doesn't get to take that away from me. I'm going to trust the process. I'm going to keep going. She did her manifestation practice even though it felt mechanical. Even though she didn't feel it. She was showing up. That's what mattered. The next morning, the heaviness was still there, but lighter. She went to work. Did her job. Came home. Day 30. Day 31. Day 32. Each day, a little easier. The fog lifting gradually. And then, day 33 arrived. Sarah woke up and immediately noticed, the heaviness was gone. Completely. She felt clear. Light. Energized. She did her manifestation practice with genuine emotion for the first time in days. As she was getting ready for work, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Then something made her pick up. Is this Sarah Chen? Yes. This is Patricia Moore from Moore & Associates. We're a consulting firm that helps small businesses with strategy and operations. Your name came up in our research, and we found your 30 under 30-foot article from a few years ago. We're looking for someone with retail business experience to join our team as a consultant. Would you be interested in discussing an opportunity? Sarah's heart stopped. A consulting firm. Looking for her. Because of an article from years ago when her life was different. Yes. Yes, I'd be interested. They scheduled an interview for the following week. Sarah hung up and sat down on her bed, stunned. Day 33. The last day of her commitment. And an opportunity she never could have predicted had just appeared. She added it to her gratitude list. The universe is opening doors I didn't even know existed. The interview with Moore & Associates was unlike anything Sarah expected. Patricia Moore was warm, sharp, and direct. She explained that their firm helped struggling small businesses turn around. They needed someone who understood the retail world from personal experience. "We read about your boutique," Patricia said. "We're sorry it closed. But your expertise in building it is exactly what our clients need." Sarah took a deep breath. Honesty or polish? She chose honesty. "I need to tell you something. The boutique didn't close because of market conditions. It closed because I had a severe mental health crisis. I became homeless for several months. I'm only recently getting back on my feet." She waited for the polite rejection. Instead, Patricia leaned forward. "Thank you for telling me that. Here's the thing, Sarah, our clients are people in crisis. Business owners who are failing. They need someone who understands rock bottom and knows how to climb out. Your experience makes you more valuable, not less." The position was contract-based. $85 per hour. Approximately 20 hours per week to start, with potential to grow. 20 hours at $85 equals $1,700 per week equals $6,800 per month. Sarah tried to keep her expression neutral, but inside, she was screaming. She got the position. She started the following Monday. Her first client was a woman named Elena who owned a struggling bakery. Elena was on the verge of closing. Drowning in debt. Exhausted and hopeless. Sarah sat across from Elena and saw herself 4 months ago. "I know this feels impossible," Sarah said gently. "But it's not. I'm going to help you turn this around." And she did. She helped Elena restructure her pricing, streamline operations, focus on her most profitable products. Within 6 weeks, the bakery was breaking even. Within 3 months, it was profitable. Elena cried when she saw the numbers. "You saved my business. You saved my life." Sarah thought about Margaret, who had saved hers. "Pay it forward," Sarah said. "When you're stable, help someone else." Sarah's reputation grew quickly. She took on more clients. The firm increased her hours. Within 6 months of starting with Moore and Associates, she was making $12,000 per month. She moved out of the rooming house into a 1-bedroom apartment. Nothing fancy, but it was hers. Clean. Safe. Quiet. She paid Margaret back the loan, plus extra. Margaret cried and tried to refuse, but Sarah insisted. "You changed my life," Sarah said. "This is nothing compared to what you gave me." Sarah also started saving aggressively. $4,000 per month went straight into savings. But the most profound shift wasn't financial. It was internal. The depression hadn't disappeared completely. It came in waves still. But Sarah had tools now. Manifestation. Gratitude. Visualization. Purpose. On bad days, she reminded herself, "I've survived worse. I can survive this." And she did. 8 months after starting her manifestation practice, Sarah had $32,000 in savings, a thriving consulting career, and a life she barely recognized. But she kept feeling pulled towards something more. She kept thinking, "I need to tell my story. Other people need to know this is possible." The universe was about to show her exactly how to do that. 1 year after sleeping on benches in Jefferson Park, Sarah stood in front of a room of 20 people at a community center. She had been asked to speak at a workshop for people experiencing homelessness. To share her story. To give hope. Sarah was terrified. Public speaking had never been her strength. And talking about her lowest moments felt vulnerable and raw. But she had said yes anyway. Because someone needed to hear it. She told them everything. The boutique. The depression. The divorce. The streets. The library. The law of attraction. The 33 days that changed everything. When she finished, the room was silent. Then a woman in the back started clapping. Then another. Then everyone. Several people came up to her after, asking questions. How did she start? What exactly did she do? Could they really change their lives with their thoughts? Sarah felt something click into place. This was her purpose now. Not just helping business owners. Helping people who had lost hope. She started a blog that week, From Homeless to Whole, My Journey Through Manifestation. She wrote her story in detail. Every step. Every practice. Every doubt and breakthrough. She shared it on social media, expecting maybe a few friends to read it. Within a week, it had 5,000 views. Within a month, 50,000. People from around the world reached out. Your story gave me hope when I had none. I started my own 33-day practice because of you. I was about to give up. You showed me it's possible. Sarah started a YouTube channel. Posted videos about manifestation, gratitude, overcoming depression. Her subscriber count grew, 1,000. 5,000, 20,000. 100,000. She wasn't trying to become an influencer. She was just sharing her truth. But people were hungry for real stories. Not perfectly curated content from people who had never struggled. Real transformation from real rock bottom. Brands started reaching out for sponsorships. Sarah said no to most of them. She didn't want to sell products. She wanted to help people. But she did create one product, a course. 33 Days to Transformation, the exact system I used to go from homeless to thriving. She priced it at $97. Affordable but not free. She had learned from her consulting work, people value what they pay for. The course launched on a Tuesday. By Friday, 500 people had enrolled. 500 times $97 equals $48,500. In 3 days. Sarah stared at the number, hands shaking. She had made $48,500 sharing her story. Helping people transform their lives the way she had transformed hers. This wasn't just consulting anymore. This was a movement. Within 6 months, 10,000 people had taken the course. Sarah was making $60,000 to $80,000 per month in course sales alone, plus her consulting income. She quit consulting to focus full-time on creating content, courses, and helping people. Her energy had completely transformed. The woman who had been invisible on the streets was now being seen by millions. The woman who had felt worthless now knew her story had immense value. The woman who had wanted to disappear now had a purpose bigger than herself. Sarah looked at her life and thought, a year ago, I was sleeping on a bench. Today, I'm changing lives. How is this real? But she knew how. She had changed her frequency. And the universe had matched it. Just when Sarah thought everything was perfect, the universe tested her. Her course sales dropped suddenly. Algorithm changes on social media meant her reach plummeted. Engagement fell. In 1 month, her income dropped from $75,000 to $18,000. The old Sarah would have panicked. Spiraled. Seen it as proof that success wasn't sustainable. The new Sarah took a breath and asked, what is this teaching me? She realized she had become too dependent on one income stream. One platform. One method. She needed to diversify. Evolve. Grow. She started a podcast. Launched a second, more advanced course. Offered one-on-one coaching for a premium price. She also wrote a book. It took her 3 months. She wrote it in coffee shops, in her apartment, on weekends. She poured everything into it, her story, her practices, her lessons. She titled it, Rock Bottom to Millionaire, How I Used the Law of Attraction to Transform My Life. She self-published it on Amazon. The first week, it sold 47 copies. Sarah was disappointed but not defeated. She kept promoting it, sharing it, believing in it. Then something unexpected happened. A popular podcast host stumbled across her book, read it, loved it, invited Sarah to be a guest on her podcast. The podcast had 2 million listeners. Sarah told her story, talked about the book, talked about manifestation and transformation. The episode went viral. Within 48 hours of the podcast airing, Sarah's book shot to #1 in multiple categories on Amazon. Sales exploded, 5,000 copies in 1 week. Then 10,000. Then 50,000. At $10 per book, after Amazon's cut, Sarah made $500,000 in 6 weeks. $500,000. From a book she had written in 3 months. Sarah sat in her apartment, looking at her bank account, and couldn't process it. 2 years ago, she had $127 and was sleeping on a bench. Now she had over $1 million in total assets between savings, investments, and book sales. She was a millionaire. Not because she got lucky. Not because someone handed it to her. Because she had changed her frequency. Because she had committed to transformation. Because she had turned her pain into purpose. The test wasn't the drop in course sales. The test was, would she trust the process even when things got hard? She had. And the universe had rewarded that trust. The day Sarah's bank account hit $1 million, she didn't celebrate. She cried. Not tears of joy, though there was joy. Tears of disbelief. Of grief for the version of herself who had thought she would die on the streets. She thought about the woman she had been 2 years ago. Invisible. Broken. Hopeless. If she could go back and tell that woman, in 2 years, you'll be a millionaire helping thousands of people, that woman wouldn't have believed it. Hell, current Sarah barely believed it. She called Margaret, the librarian who had helped her when she had nothing. Margaret, I need to tell you something. What is it, dear? My book hit #1 on Amazon. I made over $1 million. And none of this would have happened without you. You were the first person to see me when I was invisible. You helped me when you had no reason to. You changed my life. Margaret was quiet for a moment. Then she said softly, Sarah, I gave you water and helped with a resume. You did everything else. Don't diminish your own transformation. I want to do something for you, Sarah said. Please. Let me pay for something. A vacation. Home repairs. Anything. Margaret laughed. I'm retired and comfortable, sweetheart. I don't need anything. But you know what would make me happy? What? Keep helping people. Keep telling your story. That's the gift. Watching you thrive is all the payment I need. Sarah understood. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about impact. She started a foundation, Second Chances Foundation. The mission, help people experiencing homelessness access the resources, tools, and support they needed to transform their lives. She donated $100,000 to start it. Partnered with libraries, community centers, nonprofits. They provided free manifestation journals, access to online courses, interview, clothing, mental health resources, job placement assistance. Everything she had needed when she was on the streets, she now provided for others. Within the first year, the foundation helped 1,200 people find housing and employment. Sarah read testimonials from people whose lives had changed. stories similar to hers. People who had lost everything and found their way back. She realized, this was the full circle. She had gone from receiving help to giving help. From victim to victor to guide. Her life had meaning beyond money. Beyond success. Beyond anything she had imagined. The turning point wasn't hitting $1 million. The turning point was realizing that her purpose was bigger than her personal gain. She was here to show people what's possible. To be living proof that rock bottom is not the end. It's the beginning. 3 years after her first day in the library, Sarah's second book launched, The 33-Day Manifestation Method. This one wasn't a memoir. It was a practical guide. Step-by-step instructions for transformation. It included a 33-day journal with daily prompts, exercises, and tracking tools. The book debuted at #1 on the New York Times bestseller list. Sarah did a media tour. Podcasts. TV interviews. Magazine features. She told her story over and over. I was homeless. Depressed. Invisible. The law of attraction saved my life. Some people criticized her. You're selling false hope. Not everyone can manifest $1 million. Sarah's response was always the same, you're right. Not everyone will become a millionaire. But everyone can change their frequency. Everyone can practice gratitude. Everyone can choose different thoughts. And those changes create real transformation, whatever that looks like for each person. The book sold 2 million copies in the first year. Sarah's net worth grew to $5 million. She bought a beautiful house. Not a mansion. Just a comfortable home with a garden and space to write. She hired a small team to help run her foundation and her business. She traveled, speaking at events, helping people transform their lives. But the most meaningful moment came when she returned to Jefferson Park. She walked to the bench where she used to sleep. Sat down. Looked around. There was a homeless man asleep on a nearby bench. Just like she had been. Sarah approached him carefully. Excuse me. Are you okay? Can I help you with anything? The man woke up, defensive. I don't need charity. I'm not offering charity, Sarah said gently. I'm offering opportunity. I used to sleep on that bench. She pointed. 3 years ago. I was homeless for months. I understand. The man's expression softened slightly. What happened? I changed my mind. Sounds simple, but it's not. It's hard work. But it's possible. Here. She handed him a card. This is my foundation. We help people get back on their feet. Housing assistance. Job placement. Mental health support. No strings attached. Just, help. She also handed him a copy of her book. Read this if you want. It's my story. It might give you hope. The man took both items hesitantly. Why are you doing this? Because someone helped me when I had nothing. I'm paying it forward. Sarah walked away before he could respond. She would never know if he used the resources. If he read the book. If he changed his life. But she had planted a seed. Just like Margaret had planted a seed in her. That's all any of us can do. Plant seeds and trust they'll grow. Sarah's life now looked nothing like the life she had lost. It was better. Because it was built on purpose, gratitude, and transformation. She had manifested more than money. She had manifested meaning. Sarah's transformation created a ripple effect she never anticipated. Her ex-husband, Michael, reached out after seeing her on a podcast. Sarah. I saw your interview. I had no idea you went through all that. I'm so sorry I left when you needed me most. Sarah had expected to feel anger if she ever heard from him again. But she felt peace. You made the right choice for you, she said honestly. If you had stayed, we both would have drowned. I needed to save myself. And I did. They had coffee. Talked. Forgave each other. Michael had remarried. Had a daughter. Was happy. I'm proud of you, he said. What you've built is incredible. Sarah smiled. Thank you. I'm proud of me too. Closure felt good. Her relationship with her mother deepened. Her mother had been terrified during Sarah's homelessness, not knowing where she was or if she was safe. I'm sorry I shut you out, Mom, Sarah said during a visit. I was ashamed. You have nothing to be ashamed of, her mother said firmly. You survived. You thrived. You're helping thousands of people. I'm so proud to be your mother. Sarah also reconnected with old friends from her boutique days. Some had given up on her during her depression. Others had tried to help but didn't know how. I don't blame anyone, Sarah told one friend over lunch. Depression is hard to understand if you haven't experienced it. And I wasn't ready to receive help back then. I had to hit rock bottom to be ready to change. Her health transformed too. The depression still visited occasionally, but it no longer controlled her. She had tools, therapy, medication that actually worked, and most importantly, purpose. She started running, meditating, eating well, sleeping properly. She dated carefully, intentionally, not looking for someone to complete her, but to complement her. She met Daniel at a conference. He was a social worker who had also experienced homelessness in his 20s. They understood each other's journey. No judgment. No pity. Just mutual respect and attraction. Their relationship grew slowly, healthily. I'm not the same person I was when I was married before, Sarah told him one evening. I'm whole now. Not broken. I don't need saving. I know, Daniel said. That's why I love you. Sarah's life filled with joy, connection, purpose, and love. Every piece had fallen into place not through force, but through alignment. She looked at the dominoes of her life. The boutique failing led to depression, depression led to homelessness, homelessness led to the library led to manifestation, manifestation led to transformation, transformation led to purpose, purpose led to millions of lives changed. Every painful moment had been necessary. Every loss had created space for something better. Sarah understood now, nothing was wasted. Everything was preparation. 5 years after sleeping on a bench, Sarah's life was unrecognizable. She woke up in her comfortable home. Made coffee in her kitchen. Checked emails from her team. The Second Chances Foundation had helped 15,000 people transition out of homelessness. Her books had sold 5 million copies combined. Her courses had enrolled 100,000 students. Her net worth was approaching $10 million. But the numbers weren't what mattered anymore. What mattered was the woman who emailed saying, I read your book while living in my car. I just got my first apartment. Thank you for showing me it's possible. What mattered was the man who commented on her YouTube video, I was about to give up. Your story gave me hope. I'm starting my 33 days today. What mattered was seeing people transform their lives using the tools she shared. Sarah's typical day looked like this. 6 a.m., gratitude practice and visualization, she never stopped this routine. 7 a.m., exercise. 8 a.m., writing, working on book number 3. 10 a.m., foundation work, reviewing grant applications, planning programs. 12 p.m., lunch with Daniel or friends. 1 p.m., content creation, podcast, videos, social media. 3 p.m., coaching calls with course students 5 p.m., free time, reading, hobbies, rest, 7 p.m., dinner 8 p.m., relaxation 10 p.m., gratitude journal before bed. It was balanced, purposeful, joyful. She donated 30% of her income to causes she cared about: homelessness, mental health, education. She employed 15 people in her foundation and media company. Good jobs with good pay and benefits. She spoke at universities, conferences, and shelters. Always for free at shelters. "I'll never charge money to speak to homeless people," she said. "That would dishonor my journey." She was featured in Forbes, 30 inspiring entrepreneurs who rose from rock bottom. She was invited to the White House to discuss homelessness policy. She appeared on Oprah. But the most surreal moment came when she walked into a bookstore and saw a display of her book with a sign, "Local author, #1 bestseller." Sarah stood there, remembering the days when she couldn't afford to buy a book. When libraries were her only access to knowledge. Now her book was helping millions of people transform their lives. She texted a photo to Margaret, "Look what you started when you gave me water and kindness in the library." Margaret responded, "You did this, sweetheart. I just saw what was already there." Sarah's life was proof of a simple truth: your past doesn't determine your future. Your frequency does. You can lose everything and build it back better. You can fall apart and put yourself back together stronger. You can be invisible and become unforgettable. Sarah had done it. And if she could do it, anyone could. Sarah's transformation taught her lessons she would carry forever. The biggest lesson: rock bottom is not a curse. It's a catalyst. When you lose everything, you discover what you're really made of. You learn what actually matters. You find strength you didn't know you had. 5 years ago, Sarah thought losing her business, her marriage, her home, and ending up on the streets was the worst thing that could happen to her. Now she understands, it was the best thing. Because it forced her to completely rebuild. Not from the old blueprint. From a new one. She didn't recreate her boutique or her old life. She created something infinitely better. A life with purpose, impact, and meaning. And the tool that started everything? Manifestation. Not magic. Not wishing. But the deliberate practice of changing her internal frequency to match what she wanted to create. Gratitude. Visualization. Affirmations. Consistent daily practice. For 33 days, Sarah showed up for herself even when she had nothing. Even when it felt pointless. Even when she wanted to quit. Those 33 days changed the trajectory of her entire life. The tool that kept her consistent. The structure of a manifestation journal. Every day, she wrote her gratitude. Set her intentions. Tracked her progress. Saw evidence of her transformation. That journal became her sacred space. The place where she planted energetic seeds. And those seeds grew into $1 million life. If you're listening to this story and you see yourself in where Sarah was, maybe not homeless, but hopeless. Maybe not on the streets, but stuck. Maybe not depressed clinically, but disconnected from joy, please hear this. You can change your life. You really can. Not overnight. Not through wishing. But through commitment. Through showing up for yourself every single day for 33 days. Through changing your frequency from despair to possibility. From lack to abundance. From victim to creator. Sarah started with nothing. Less than nothing. She was homeless, depressed, invisible. And she became a millionaire. An author. A speaker. A force for good. Not through luck. Through alignment. Through practicing abundance even when she had none. Through trusting even when circumstances said not to. The 33 Days Manifestation Journal is the exact tool Sarah used. It's not just a journal. It's your sacred space for the next 33 days. A place to practice gratitude. To set intentions. To track your transformation. To plant your own energetic seeds. Because manifestation isn't about wishing. It's about becoming. When you become the person who is abundant, successful, joyful, purposeful, the universe matches that frequency. Sarah proved it's possible. Thousands of her students have proved it's possible. Now it's your turn. The link to the 33 Days Manifestation Journal is pinned in the comments. Your rock bottom doesn't have to be your ending. It can be your beginning. Sarah's was. And she went from homeless to millionaire in 5 years. What will your transformation look like? Start today. Start right now. Your future self is waiting.